And we're live.
Whoa.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning into another episode of GeekVerse Podcast. We're back, episode 7 of Halo. That is right. We're going to start with our non-spoilers first and get into the spoilers, but I am one of your hosts, the last Todd, Taylor Field.
I'm Papa, Kirklin Batzer.
And I am the Adam Hart caster, Dylan Muss.
And a couple of plugs. You can find us with your internet connection in the search bar. GeekVerse.ca is our home base. GeekVerseCast is our Twitter, and GeekVerse on our Facebook. Definitely check us out on the Patreon as well, because we got a whole archive of exclusive content on there. It's a good time. Ad-free episodes. You can never go wrong with that. So shout outs to the Patreon for sure.
The place to be these days.
It is the place to be. Kirklin, you and me just did a Obi-Wan sort of news kind of trailer deep dive episode.
Absolutely. Tons of fun on there. We dissected that second. I'm assuming it's going to be the last trailer. They might have like a TV spot leading up right to the show release, but yeah, no, that was lots of fun. We had our little predictions, and yeah, very fun episode talking Star Wars.
What about you, Dylan? What do you got side quests this week popping off?
Yeah, SideQuest was fun. Nintendo Switch Sports came out last weekend, so reviewed that. And then next week, I'm going to be joined by Kirklin, and we're going to be reviewing a couple more games. Dune, Spice Wars, and Trek to Yomi, which I just played for like a half an hour. So if you want to find out what I think, tune in next week. And then Taylor, you're joining me the week after. Look at this. It's all coming together.
Like it. It's a good lineup for sure.
Absolutely.
Oh, well, where do you guys want to start off non-spoilers with this episode?
Non-spoilers. I guess I wasn't here last week, so I could very quickly touch upon my thoughts on that one. So episode 6, I believe that one was, because I think, this one was 7. So coming off episode 5, which I think we were all praising as like the best one of the series so far, which was like that really awesome action sequence. And then last week's episode, not quite as good as that, but I still think it was kind of good, especially I mentioned this to Taylor yesterday that I've actually been reading like the Fall of Reach book, and like just going over like John's like upbringing into the Spartan program and stuff like that. It's actually changed my perspective on the character of Master Chief, of like getting used to him without the helmet, because I think before I always just saw him as like the protagonist of the Halo games, and like he never took his helmet off. So like in the show, anytime he had his helmet off, it's like, this is just not even this character. Now I can at least push back a little bit on myself, being like, okay, well now I actually see him as like a human being, at least like like having the book help for that. So that was good. It changed my perspective on the character a bit. Still really don't like him like at all. I think especially reading like the book content, that's really good actually. Like I'm really digging the Fall of Reach book, and excited to jump into the other ones once I'm done it. It's really great content, and again, it's probably making it worse now watching this show like alongside of it, because it's like I know what they can do right with the character. I'm still not loving him. So that episode, I thought it was pretty good. I kind of like just the like the drama kind of going on between like the scapegoat that's going on with Halsey, and Amanda Keyes like actually like getting to like peer in the looking like behind the curtain of like what's going on, and how like fucked up the Spartan program actually is. So I really like that stuff. So all in all, I thought last week's was a pretty good episode in comparison of the other episodes of the series, other than episode 5. But so I was like semi hyped going into this one. God, as soon as I started, I knew exactly where we were going with it. Heavy Quan Ha character, or heavy Quan Ha episode with the other Spartan. I've already forgot his name. Soren, thank you. And yeah, I think we've all kind of said in the past, we're like, I personally just really don't like this plot. This whole episode was that. So if you feel the same way as me and you don't like those two characters, unfortunately, you're probably not gonna like this episode. A lot of stuff building towards. I feel like now I can at least kind of see what they like, how they're gonna get like Chief and her like back together, because we haven't seen them together since the first episode. So like I kind of see how they're gonna blend the plots together. But all in all, yeah, this is a pretty boring episode, honestly. Like I just didn't really care for the characters that were playing around in this one. And yeah, Soren, it's just so hard for me to like that character. Like he's just such a piece of shit in my eyes, and like they keep like showing him these little like redemption things, and it's just like he's just a bad guy. Like honestly, he's just like a pirate, and I'm not rooting for him. So yeah, all in all, didn't really care for this episode. it's crazy that we still have like 3 more. Me and Taylor were saying yesterday.
2 more, I think, right?
It's 9 episodes, not 10.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay, yeah. But we were just saying how this show, it's just so funny how it's like outlasting something like Moon Knight. Like it started before Moon Knight, now Moon Knight's over, and we're like still doing Halos. It's a show that's never gonna end, and
we're going in circles.
Especially like the episode lengths, and on this episode that I personally just didn't really like for the plot, it just really dragged. I'm like, I can't believe this is like a full on, basically 50-minute episode. It was it's just tough to keep my like engagement on it, which is never something you want in a series like this. But nonetheless, I'll pass it along to you little boys for your not little boys, little men.
little
boys.
Really doubling down on the little. I'll take over here. So Taylor, I think you predicted this last week. I think we were talking about this like, okay, we didn't see Quan at all this episode. Talking last week, what's her story gonna be? And I think you said next episode's gonna be Quan like the whole time, and then we'll like move on from that. So that's exactly what happened this episode. Like Chief's in there, but he's not really in there. He's kind of just in there so they could say he's in every episode, I guess, but he's really not. But yeah, I feel like I had that in mind from what Taylor said. The thumbnail of the episode was just Quan, and then I feel like after the first couple minutes, I just kind of had that vibe, like, okay, we're just gonna go fully into this story, right? Like, and it that's exactly what happened. It doesn't cut back to Chief and all those storylines. It's purely Quan and Soren. And honestly, I don't think there's anything in this episode that's particularly bad, like poorly done, anything like that. But it's what Kirklin said of we've had so much time with these characters now, and at no point did I really feel like I got connected to them, and so it just ended up being kind of a boring journey. There is a lot there is a lot that went on, but I just there's a couple scenes that I thought were pretty good, but nothing that really gripped me. And if this was the episode that really solidifies you on why you should care about Quan and Soren, it didn't really achieve that for me. So definitely a lackluster episode. I don't think we're going to get another one of these. Like, I think the rest of this is kind of set up to be a pretty exciting last couple episodes. Hopefully I'm right on that. But yeah, overall, just probably, I don't know if I want to call it my least favorite episode, because I feel like there is other episodes that just like the execution is worse. I don't think the execution is the problem with this episode. It's just the content is not really that interesting. So I think that's where I'm at. Does that make sense? I don't know if that made sense the way I described it.
It makes sense.
Okay.
Yeah.
How about you, Taylor?
This is an episode. I felt like we were gonna get something like this. Obviously, like I mentioned to you, Dylan, in our previous review, and it was just the trajectory was leading us down this path to get to here, and I was just bored. Really was. I hate to say it with the Halo TV show, but I was bored throughout the first portion of it. I will say I liked the ending, and not because the episode was ending, but just because I genuinely liked how they kind of concluded this a little bit. But I just really was just not having it. I just didn't feel like it was really Halo vibes going forward in here, and it was just kind of a major setback because, again, like you said, Kirklin, that 2 episodes ago, that was definitely some prime Halo content, and then last week was definitely its own unique thing, but there was still a lot of dynamics that I was getting on board with and excited for, and then this was just kind of like a foot in the mud a little bit. And yeah, it's just, there's a few things that have resolved that I'm thinking like, okay, thank the Halo gods that we don't have to focus on certain aspects anymore with this, so thank you for that. But at least it's happening now, and we have a few more episodes to go, which I'm hoping will be centered on things that I've mentioned in the previous episodes. I won't mention right now, non-spoilers, but yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if there's much else I'd want to break down in the non-spoilers part of this. Like, this really, I know a lot goes on plot-wise here if you think about it, but it did feel like a filler episode, It felt like something to like, they needed to get to 9 episodes somehow, and they needed to fill a random episode, and this is how they decided to do it. In terms of even like going back to previous locations we've been. It's like, okay, we can film this in like a day while we have this set already kind of going. Like, it even has a lot of those vibes, unfortunately.
Yeah, there's one peak. Oh no, peak is actually a very wrong term. There's one significant occurrence in this episode which I think will be relevant going forward heavily, and I'm excited to break that down with you guys. But yeah, other than that, pretty filler. Any last minute thoughts for you, Kirklin? Or are you ready to send it?
No, let's send it. I'll send it away.
All right. I'm going to jump to a quick ad break, and then we're getting into spoilers. So we'll be right back. And we're back. So where do you guys want to start?
Well, there's one funny thing I want to bring up that kind of made me laugh is at the start of this episode, you kind of get a couple sequences. You get one of Quan. It's like a flashback to, I don't know, 10 years ago, 5 years ago. It's hard to tell. She has a different haircut and all this stuff. But then you also get what I thought was a flashback of Soren, but it's actually not. It's actually just him going back, I guess. But then he's telling a story that sounds like a story he would have told years ago because it's about him meeting his wife. I don't know. It was kind of confusing. I don't know if that was supposed to be a flashback. But I loved Soren's outfit here. Like, he was just wearing, like, this snakeskin outfit, had, like snakeskin boots, like, pants, and the shirt. I loved this outfit. And honestly, I thought the scene was funny because it was kind of, like, cutting between him, like, going group to group and just, like, bragging about how cool he is, pretty much. It kind of reminded me of in Avengers 2 when Rhodey's just like walking around telling that story to everyone and like that. I was just getting that vibe. So I actually thought that was kind of a funny moment, and I guess it's kind of setting up this other partner or character in there. I didn't really care about the context so much, but I just thought it was kind of a funny sequence.
Yeah, that particular scene, that was one where I'm like, I like all these attempts that the show is trying to make me like the character of Soren, like, oh, he's not actually a bad guy. He's gonna actually take care of Quan Ha and like deliver on his promise to John. It just goes to a scene like this. He's just like boasting about himself. Someone at the party's like, cheers to you. He's like, oh yeah, so cheers to me. Like, and it's just like, this guy's a Spartan. Like, come on, like just such an unlikable character in my eyes. And yeah, like there was a moment in this episode where you think he dies, and I didn't like feel any emotion about it. I'm like, finally, like let's just get rid of this character now, which is, I don't think that should be the case, especially like with a Spartan that's like a really big character in the Halo universe, and especially like I said, like I'm reading through the book of just like going through, like I'm really getting attached to like these Spartans, that like what they went through. So like if anything, I feel like I should have a lot of attachment to this guy, but he's just a piece of shit, and he's just in it for the ship and the shitload of credits that he's gonna be getting, whatever he says that line repeating. But yeah, they're not doing a good job at making him a likable hero in my eyes.
Hero is definitely a stretch of a term when it comes to Soren, because he's like not even like an anti-hero, maybe an anti-hero. Yeah, cheers to me. That really got me. And I wasn't super digging that scene, but like you're right, like how he's dressed was like super fly, and how he was just talking like cheers to me. What a thing to say. And yeah, he's just bullshitting all these different stories, and I was trying to really listen to make the comparison, because was he just explaining different ways as how he lost his ship to the same people in the group? Like,
I guess so. Yeah. But then he's like talking in front of everyone at the same time, and it's like the people he's talked to before. So it's like, is that a different story? What's going on, man?
Yeah. I always enjoy seeing him actually with his wife, and just his wife being the grounding force for him. And this guy, his partner, I guess, which wasn't clearly his partner. It was kind of like,
and like we haven't seen that guy before, right?
No, yeah.
Or like maybe he's in the background of a shot. I can't remember like if he ever spoke, or if it was like in episode 2 when we first went to that planet, right?
I think he was in episode 2 when the forklift came. I think he was the one kind of laughing at Chief when Chief moved
that would make sense.
I could be wrong though.
The guy just bit back in this episode though.
It did. It really did. The guy. So what is his name? His name's Squirrel, because Soren was like, oh, look at Squirrel, got some nuts or something finally. Throwing shade at him.
I wish it was funnier than it actually is in the show. Like we are laughing about some of these lines in retrospect, but they're not like big ha-ha moments when you're actually watching the show. I don't know.
Yeah. What did you guys think of the context with Squirrel's like big score and everything? Because that seemed to take a lot of the episode up, and I don't feel like it had any direction after that aside from.
No, that was one that just led to a wall. Like there was no reason. I feel like they're just wasting time, like going into that little story there.
Yeah. If that whole point just feels like it was buying time until Soren could find a revelation where the bounty has been tripled on Quan, so he can go back and do something, and it feels like time has passed. So it just felt all like filler content, and Squirrel, like, who gives a shit? Like, this guy's not going to be in the show again, or maybe he will. There's a couple characters that have come back, and one particular in this episode that's come back again that I didn't expect. So I don't know, maybe Squirrel will be the one who's been controlling the Covenant the whole time. Who fucking knows? But I doubt we'll see this guy again.
The prophets answer to him.
Yeah.
And his broken toes.
You mentioned that character, Dylan, and that was like the most prominent thing on my mind was that bloody character. I thought sure we'd see him once. Do you know who we're referring to, Kirklin?
You talking about Papa?
No, not
Who you talking
Papa.
Who you talking about?
He's very loosey-goosey. He's not all there. He was abducted once or twice.
Yes,
He likes to crawl around or walk around in all
the scenery. Anytime he's on scene, like he is going for the Oscar for this role. He is just overacting so much and just so wild.
Do you think it's like? Do you think the director told him to ham it down, or just like let him do his thing when they were on set? Like, where do you think his expectations were for what he should be doing in that scene?
He is going full wild in any time he's on scene. I feel like if he would have told him tone it down by now, like he would have been toned down, but he's still at that same tempo that he was the first time we saw him. Yeah, that's funny. I completely forgot about him until now, even though he was in this episode. And yeah, he just disturbs me when he's on screen. Those giant yellow teeth he's got, and I don't really know like the connection to this character. Like it just seems like, okay, he knows some things going on about like destiny with all these characters that are gonna intertwine, but I don't know. Like, is he actually there? Like in those tents with those people? Like, was
no?
Yeah,
that was a dream sequence. He was there in the dream for Quan Ha's father and all of the ancestors.
She can't forget about him either. He's top of mind in her head, and so in that ayahuasca session, that's like the first thing she goes to.
Yeah, and like that entire scene that follows with her like dueling Chief, and I feel like by the end of it, like what she got into the realization that she needs to like trust Chief, or like they need to work together or something. Like just the whole dueling aspect of it, I was just like scratching my head. I'm like, I can't believe what I'm watching right now. Like, is this a Halo show? Like, show me the Covenant and energy swords and like some badass hunters kicking ass. Like, I was just so out of the show by that point. And it was a long like duel sequence. She died multiple times in her ayahuasca trip to just Chief one punching her. Really wasn't in it and doing it for me in those sequences.
I liked the idea of that sequence, but yeah, the execution wasn't all there for me. And I guess the other thing it's building towards is that she's like this protector. Like I guess that word has a lot of meaning for her and her culture and her people and for her father too. So it seemed like that. I mean, that was kind of the revelation she had when she was able to calm down and like come out of that dream sequence. And then he was also talking about the portal. He was setting up this portal that I guess like when things are settled, then the portal can open. So Taylor, is that the thing you were talking about? You think that's going to have a big, that's going to be important in the future, or were you talking about something else?
I was talking about something else,
okay.
Not necessarily the portal. Was there anything more on Quan Ha that you had there?
That was pretty much it. I guess I was just wondering about that portal. Like, do you guys think that's like, was that all a metaphor for the sake of this dream and she kind of having this realization, or is this portal going to be an important thing? Like, because I don't really see what other reason we have to come back to Madrigal in these last two episodes. Maybe there will be, but I don't know. What do you guys think about this portal? Am I just thinking too much about this?
I believe that they could use Madrigal as some kind of I don't want to say shield world, but like I'm trying to avoid spoilers for your sake too, Kirklin. There are Forerunner planets out there that we know of, and a lot of them you wouldn't even think of being Forerunner planet, but when you go underground, they have all of these different areas you can access. And I'm wondering, okay, maybe this well that we saw in the episode was a portal to another part of the planet to access Forerunner facilities or something like that. Like, it would be a familiar concept.
That thing, like, because you saw like a being by the portal initially, and then it just went through like a bunch of different changes. Eventually, changes to Papa Quan. Before it changed initially, though, there was like this little drone thing. I'm thinking like the portal dude, like same design. Wasn't he in Halo? Like there was a creature like that. It was like an oracle or something.
He is that's exactly it. He is the oracle, and he's essentially not a gatekeeper, but a caretaker of the Halo rings. So to have one here, I'm very intrigued by.
Yeah, because like the design instantly just made me remember the one from the Halo games. So like, are they implying that like the Oracle is just mimicking the image of her dad and like communicating like to her in that manner? Because it looks like when he was changing like creature, like he was changing like persons, like from
That was descendants. Like
Yeah, I
those
think
were
those
Quan Ha's
Oh, okay.
ancestors, and it was
Okay.
showing like the lineage going down. And this is another
I see.
reason why I attribute this to somewhere underneath is a Forerunner facility, because
Right.
this guy and their family found this out, started harvesting from the planet, and you have a Forerunner facility down there with an oracle that's caretaking for it. I think it just goes
Okay.
hand in hand.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Thanks for clarifying.
Yeah, I was curious about that too. Like, was all of that just kind of in her head and just things she was forming from the memory she has, or was there some sort of like spirit or ancestral thing going on where she could, or her father's spirit was somehow still lurking out there through the witch's magic? Because like even what's his name, the head honcho guy that I can't remember the name of, like the Nazi dude with the funny little red glasses.
Fincher.
Finster, yeah. Like he mentioned something about that too. Like that was like their greatest fear was like the witches, or at least or Quan Ha's dad's connection with them. That was like the thing they feared the most. Or
Yeah.
yeah.
That scene where, again, with the witches, leading up to that, when Quan Ha was driving through the desert and she's just a super pissed off infant, it was angering me seeing this, and she stopped in the desert and she just easily got a bag over her head. I thought, fuck, this is how easy it is to get you knocked out of this show, like seriously. And then that progressed where all these witches had bows and stuff, like, oh, they're just like shoehorning in a militia for her to use now. Like, this is me trying to like figure out what's going on. And then
like,
it gets, oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, like, when she gets captured again, like, what is she trying to do? She's just trying to like fight everyone again. It's just like, fuck off, Quan Ha. Like, again, another character that I'm like trying to like for like sake of the show, but I don't really care for her, and she's supposed to be this like young, again, like character that we can follow along and like kind of root for her on her journey. But it's just like she's just a little bratty character, probably getting all these other like the witches just murdered like she did everybody else that she interacts with. Hopefully it's not the case, but
hopefully not.
Yeah.
But you make a good point about her just being bratty and everything, because when the woman's like, oh, I can't tell you about your father, she's like, I'm not a child anymore. Yeah. It's like, Jesus Christ, calm the fuck down. Yeah, I'll fight anyone. And then this dream sequence, which was super out to lunch, I liked how it started with Chief. Again, he's in a helmet, and then all of a sudden we get him after she gets just killed, which was a really crazy scene. We get him all of a sudden with no helmet, looking down at her with his hand extended. Then the next scene, he's got no fucking armor on at all. He's wearing his skin tight spandex. Like, what is this relevant to for the story? Absolutely nothing.
That's what I mean. Like, I feel like they just needed to get Pablo in there.
yeah.
I don't know. I don't know why. I don't know if it's like a contract thing. Like he had to be in all 9 episodes. That's what he signed up for. So like, shit. Well, I guess we got to get him in there. Because I was gonna ask you guys when it was just Chief getting hit by chains and stuff. I was like, do you guys think that was a stunt double, or is he actually there? And then obviously, I mean, maybe that still was a stunt double for those parts when they're whipping chains around his neck. But yeah, I mean, they did not need to add Pablo actually in there for that scene to have any more of an impact. So maybe I honestly think it was a contract thing. I don't know how TV works, but maybe he signed on for 9 episodes and they needed to have him in there somehow. I'm
wondering if that's the same with Quan now. If she signed on for 9 episodes, because she was in the last week's, at least in a Vision, right? So Visions are just their cop
she
out.
was in that Vision. Yeah.
So Vision's
and then the
everywhere.
Week before,
apparently.
we talked about how they were just in there screwing around for 5 minutes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but this kind of like segues into the Soren coming back, and again, that was kind of like what we were talking about with the wife, kind of like making him feel, you're a good guy, like don't use fear, essentially, crushing your henchman's toes. And I thought again we were in another Vision when he appeared with Quan Ha.
He appeared out of nowhere. And, like, by this point in the show, I feel like he's pretty solid with his crew. So like I feel like I would have guessed that anytime he goes anywhere, he's at least gonna take like a skeleton crew with him. And he's like, no, just fast travels there by himself, like just literally in there, like exactly where Quan Ha is. And I know they like made the point of showing that it seems like everybody can kind of just track Quan Ha. But yeah, it was just silly in my opinion when he just like turned the corner. It's like, there you are.
Yeah, absolutely. That was, again, going back to the base where her whole family just got absolutely fucking bopped. And I appreciated the attention to detail of seeing the elites just kind of like lying around still and everything.
Yeah, no one's been there to clean up.
No. No, not at all. How did you guys feel about like the plan and the plan. Fuck. Okay, one thing before I lay out the plan for you, where she took the tunnel to hide. Why didn't they hide the kids down there when the elites attacked? That's what I'm fucking wondering.
The tunnel's weird too, and then like the door that she popped out of, I don't know. It seemed very I guess it was supposed to be a hidden door. It was just very strange. I felt like the positioning of how things were in that base. It's very video game level where it's like, of course there's some little vent that you could crawl through as a player to sneak up on the enemy.
The door in Helm's Deep that Gimli and Aragorn snuck out of.
Yeah.
The bridge.
It's so obvious, but not at the same time.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a good point. Those poor children, they got mowed down.
They did. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. What do you guys think of the end sequence there, the plan, the fight, and all that?
Battle of Madrigal.
Yeah, I was kind of eye rolling when she was just like coming up with a plan. She's like, "This is my plan. We're gonna do it. It's my plan of the highway." Like, again, not exactly what she said, but pretty damn close. I was like, okay, of course this is gonna happen. And then when he volunteered to do it initially, I'm like, okay, we're gonna kill off Soren, and I'm okay with this. And then no, I'm the one that has to do it. So it's like, okay, well, I don't think they're gonna kill Quan Ha here, because no one here is to like witness her death, like Chief or one of those characters. So figured she was safe. And then yeah, I don't know. I thought it was gonna work out all fine, and then we see Soren get like shot by Vincher, and that's again where I'm like, oh, okay, we're finally gonna kill this character off. And then nope, he's just good again. So by this point, I think he's gonna fucking outlive Master Chief. Honestly, I don't think this guy can die. But all in all, like, it had some good action sequences again. So this is a part of the episode where I wasn't the most bored. So that was good. But yeah.
How do you guys feel about them kind of going back to this place we've been before? Do you see it as not necessarily a callback, but just a fun callback in a way to a place we've been before, or do you see it as more of a budget thing? Like, we can get 2 battles out of this one set piece.
Definitely.
'Cause that set piece is like not. I feel like the amount of CGI there, like it seems like they built a lot of it, or had some set, and just like I feel like it is a pretty good practical set for the most part, or at least they hide it pretty well.
No, I think that's a good point of like budget reasons, but also like, yeah, like it looks like they went through great attention to detail of just like building like the structures, and like it seems like a good place to just have a war. Good paintball location, Taylor.
Ooh, yeah.
So yeah, I think I was fine with it. Again, like Taylor shouted out, I like just seeing like the Covenant forces and like their corpses just there.
Yeah.
No youngling corpses or anything like that. They didn't want to tear at our heartstrings.
Vaporized.
Yeah. But yeah,
I guess it leads to a moment too where I don't know if she's hiding under the exact same truck that she was under before when her dad died.
Yeah.
But then, finding Chief's gun is
117
is a moment, in the show. That's so I guess that's another reason too, is you can have that connection. Not that I really felt that much when she picked up his gun. I don't know. Felt like maybe more coincidence than anything.
Yeah. I was just laughing. I'm like, man, I feel like when I play Halo, I pick up so many guns in each mission. It's like, is one really just for Chief?
This one was.
Slap his name on it.
I'm gonna send us to a quick ad break, and then I'll chime in as well. We'll be right back. And we're back. So, like I mentioned before, this sequence, you reiterated Kirklin with the bodies and stuff like that lying around was very cool. We got, I think, our first real look at a plasma grenade, which that thing was fucking huge. I'm pretty sure it was like the size of a volleyball. And just, I started to burst out laughing, and it's probably a genuinely serious moment when she stuck it, and just you hear the sound effect. You're like, what is this? What is going on? What are you doing? And he just, then the off-panel shot of him just getting fucking vaporized by this thing. Oh my goodness.
Did that guy look like a young Jason Segel to you guys too, or was that just me? Like, he had like black hair, and he wasn't as like big as him, but like his face looked the exact same. I couldn't take him seriously because of that. And then, of course, like the acting's very cheesy, and I don't know. It just, the whole part I found weird.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I have.
Why are you guys running away?
Yeah.
They don't care about you, man. These are Nazis. They don't care if another one of their guys is gonna die.
Yeah, there was a lot of guys too. Like Fischler had like a full-on army.
There were so many.
There were so many. I get a real big kick out of how Soren was just easily just dispatching them and popping them off.
Which is like a pistol that
yeah.
can only have 6 shots at a time because he like that's
and
a
he's,
thing.
Like,
he reloads
too.
it.
He's not even like aiming.
He was
firing.
He was firing sideways, like Predator. I'm pretty sure.
Gangster, the kill shot.
I definitely felt some plot armor there, and then he got shot in the foot, and I thought that was going to be all the damage he took. But then he got shot in the neck, or at least like the way the blood and the bullet hole looked. I'm surprised that he lived, because in the next shot he's just, I'm good, man. Like I can heal, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's part of the Spartans' arsenals, that you can get shot in the neck and live if you don't have your helmet on, but. That felt weird to me, like, because it feels like they're setting up this thing that's like his big redemption arc, is that yes, he's been an asshole, but now he's gonna lay down he's gonna sacrifice everything for Quan and the greater good of Madrigal, and then he's just fine. So it feels like there really wasn't any consequences, and like somehow this big Nazi army that's taken over this planet is taken out by 2 people in a matter of 5 minutes. Like, is all of Vinster's guys dead? Was every single person there and all of them were in the blast race and now all of them are dead? That's how it came across to me. And it seemed like for this big Nazi party that we've been setting up, it just feel like it went down way too easily. Mm-hmm. And, I mean, it's also hard because I didn't care about Vinster at all. So it's not like, oh, yeah, he's fine. The villain's gone, because he was just so generic. So
he didn't have much presence, like, in the show as a whole. Like, I didn't feel at any point that he was like the big bad I'm gonna have to be worried about, like, at all.
Yeah. Did you guys feel the same about Soren as well with the way that was done?
Yeah, like, I definitely think this plot armor is just gonna be up until he fulfills his journey, and he's gonna save Quan and put her back in John's hands, and then he'll just die, because that's just his purpose now. God, one other thing too I forgot to mention on Soren is, I feel like it didn't bug me initially, but the more I see his like giant rubber fake arm, it just looks so bad in my eyes. Like, it's just a completely like different color than the rest of his skin, and it's supposed to look all mangled and gross, and it just looks so rubbery in my eyes. And they show an emphasis of him like using it like all the time, like it's his like weapon, like whether he's just like keeping a door open, he like shove that fake arm in there. When he
opened that chest and he just
like slaps it with his little gimpy arm. Yeah, it's just like, oh my gosh, this is a choice, and it's not working for me.
It definitely was highlighted. Like, I forgot, and like at the start of this episode, I'm like, wait, what's going on there? I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot that was like a whole plot
when
thing.
He was in his room talking to like his wife there, it's just like him naked, and it's just like this super rubber arm that's like triple the size of his normal arm. Like, it's
quite
so
big.
weird.
Yeah. It's like the Charger in Left 4 Dead, who just does like, yeah.
I'm waiting for him to use that attack in one of the
Well,
episodes.
he was like, even when he didn't have a gun, when they kind of by the oil barrel part in the fight sequence, and like the other guys that were near him like had assault rifles, and he was just like smacking the shit out of them.
Taylor, did you have anything to add on to the Soren stuff, or anything that we just touched upon?
Yeah, I think you guys pretty much said it. He's gonna run his course at some point, because I don't know. I don't see him being necessarily like as much as a fan favorite as the show directors are thinking he is. And maybe there's probably a fan base out there for him for sure. And
cheers to me.
All respects, yeah. Yeah, that's what the fans are saying. Fans of Soren. But yeah, he's not my kind of a character, and I think it's just the way they've executed him and kind of thrown him into the mix with this. And yeah, just his storyline being with Chief, I liked more, because he was just enlightening Chief on the flaws of the UNSC. But him with Quan Ha and just hating on Quan Ha, and then dealing with Finchler, just not really big on it. And then even the more stuff with Finchler, just kind of like trash talking him and stuff like that. Like, he's not, I didn't get the sense that this guy's supposed to be the villain. You know, we got moments of him waving through his bathtub naked or whatever. And now we had probably like 2 minutes worth of footage of him just sitting in the back seat of this fucking SUV, just talking some random gibberish that I didn't give a shit about.
It was very random gibberish.
It was very random. And then we got dialogue from the driver for some reason about, engaging. It's just so out of place. The only time I sort of appreciated his villain-esque appearance was when he was talking to the former general of Papa Ha, and she was being like interviewed or interrogated, I guess, and didn't go over well for her, but he was kind of laughing at her when she was talking about people and everything like that. So that was a good scene. I'll give him credit for. But I've seen this actor play, I think, a villain in previous roles, and I don't like his villains.
Yeah, just a little generic for sure. So where do we go from here with Quan and Soren? So it's Kirklin. It sounds like you think that maybe Soren will join Quan I mean, they went their separate ways. That's why I don't think they'll be together again.
Yeah.
So I don't see him like sacrificing himself. Like that's why I'm like, where do they go with these two characters? I guess Quan still has more work to do, but she kind of did. Like if they killed all the Nazis, then they're good, right? Like Madrigal's saved at that point.
Yeah, I feel like I can just picture him now that he's gone his own way, like still just wanting to help out. So they are wanted. Pardon me. They're wanted from the UNSC because they're pirates, and then maybe when the UNSC is like under just dire straits, who comes in? You know, the pirates. They do their drive-by, pull off some pressure from the UNSC, and then they just go their own way. John does his little nod, like, "Thank you, Soren. You saved my life." And then Soren just goes away until season 2, and then we see him in like episode 3, season 2. I feel like that is possible. I think if he was a little bit more like boots on the ground, like with Quan Ha, maybe that's where it's more likely that he does die. Unfortunately, I think he is going to stay around for a little bit, maybe, now that like you reminded me that he did kind of go his own way there. So I don't know. I don't know. For like my headcanon Talos story, he is nowhere to even he has no place in that scenario. So I think I just want him to be killed off because I just don't like the character at all. But and Quan Ha, I don't know. Like I can't see her making it past this season. Really depends what happens with her and her interaction with Chief going forward. But I just feel like she's gonna have her part to play on Madrigal, and then if she doesn't die, like she's just gonna stay there. She seems like she's really happy on that planet. That's her home planet. And I don't think we're gonna be on Madrigal after season 1. I don't know. That's my thoughts on those two characters.
I personally do think that Quan Ha will only make a comeback when they decide to incorporate the Oracle or the Forerunner attachment of this planet Madrigal to Master Chief's story. But as far as I'm concerned with Soren, like they did part ways, and I feel like he had a good conclusive ending, and like I genuinely think that this is the last we'll see them of the season. I feel like this is probably it. Yeah, but fuck, I could have said that about fucking Mr. Gollum crawling around, but here he stand corrected, he's coming back. So clearly they're just pulling characters out left, right, and center whenever they see fit. So I hope at this point we just get more focus with this conclusion of an ending to their stories, more focus with Chief, Halsey, Amanda, Jacob Keyes, just the fact that Kai removed her.
Isn't it Miranda? Both of you guys have said Amanda. Now I'm like really thrown off. I thought it was Miranda Keyes. Or am I the one who's wrong? I don't even know,
actually.
I thought it was Miranda.
I feel like I've heard both.
It is Miranda. Where did I hear Amanda
both
from?
of you. Well, you probably heard it from Kirklin, who said it earlier. Maybe that's why you said it, not to throw Kirklin under the bus. Okay. I was like, did I forget a character? I needed to know.
No, that's fair.
Yeah, because that's kind of where I'm at too. Like, for Soren, for Quan, okay, I'm trying to think like because Quan has no, as far as we know, any way to communicate with Soren at this point, and no way to communicate with Chief. She's never had any way to communicate with Chief, or else she would have done that 100 times by now every episode. The only thing I could see is that somehow Chief he's watching the news and he sees that Madrigal, the dictator on Madrigal, has been slain and all these people, and so he probably thinks like, shit, Quan probably did that or had some part. I wonder how she's doing. And then maybe he like goes there to check on her or something like that. But I feel like he's got bigger fish to fry at this point. Like some of the stuff set up last week in particular is probably a lot more pressing for him. And I don't know if he really cares about Madrigal. I mean, maybe he does because he's got the emotion thing pulled out of him now. So that's the only way I could see them reconnecting. Like I don't know what other plot reason you could have for them connecting. And so if this is it, like if Quan and Soren, this was their final episode and we don't see them for the last 2 episodes, and yeah, maybe they come back in another season, at least I think they would. Like, what was the point? What was the goal of this? What started out as, with Chief, obviously, and then very early on in the season drifted off into being its own storyline. Like, I'm just wondering, what was the point? Like, what was the goal? What was the creative? Like, what was the theme that they were trying to hit with this? I don't know. I really can't think of anything that really stuck out to me as being like something that was super interesting to dig into. Like we got some decent lore stuff, I guess, but ultimately I just think it was kind of a waste of a storyline to go into.
Yeah, I agree with you for the most part. I think if I want to play devil's advocate, like I remember from that first episode, I enjoyed seeing like a different side of like people being feared of the UNSC that wasn't just the Covenant. I thought that was kind of interesting because that was just something I wasn't really familiar with. So I think it was like it served its purpose in that regard of being like, oh, the UNSC isn't just like they're not just the good guys. Just because they're fighting for humanity doesn't mean that they're just clean and shiny. Like there is some sketchy things going on with them. But I personally think like it could have just ended there. Like it could have just been like an episode 1 thing. 'Cause yeah, now it seems like they're trying to shine a lot more importance on like the native residences of Madrigal, and like they actually have a part to play here. And I don't know, it it feels weird for me the more we stick around with them and the more characters that are introduced from Madrigal, because I don't know, in the grand scheme of things, are they that important? Like, if the UNSC or the Covenant just come to this planet, I don't think these like witches are gonna stop them, or like they're just.
There's like 20 of them.
Yeah.
They
Probably
have like 3
10 after
tents.
Quan
Like,
Ha.
they don't
Yeah.
have much going on.
After Quan Ha has her way, 10 more are gonna die. But yeah, I agree with you for the most part. But I could understand like a little bit of an argument on why they have importance, but for the amount of screen time that they've had throughout this season, I don't think it's justified.
It's because he's the Master Chief. It's the only reason I can think of. But I'm with you guys. I can only attribute it that we're going to go back to Madrigal in the near future because they're going to have Forerunner tech or something that's going to be relevant to going on, especially if there's an Oracle there that's prominent to the story enough and reason enough for me, I guess. But at the same time, Quan Ha, she could have been an episode 1 thing for sure. Like you guys mentioned, she was our gateway into seeing how badly the humans just get fucked by the Covenant, and she executed that flawlessly. So here we are now, though. Everything is kind of back to normal and peachy with Madrigal, and that's peachy. Okay. So I like that idea, though, if Chief is like watching the HoloNets and he sees Quan Ha being the ruler, or he just sees the planet getting decimated by the Covenant being glassed or something like that. You never know. But
jeez. Covenant go back for more.
Yeah, they go back
like,
for more.
We didn't get everyone.
Yeah, Madrigal's not there. But I don't know where I was going with that. Like, I'm gonna slide a yawn in there just to kind of like fudge what I'm saying.
Sure, I could take. I only have a couple more notes really. I don't know if there's too much more to dig into, but so the tower that was kind of in the middle of this base, was that like a weather controlling thing? Is that what was going on there? Because as soon as they blow it up, it rains, and they were so happy that it rained. I don't know if they were happy because they won, or if they were happy because that thing was somehow like is part of the reason why this is like a desert planet, and that thing was stopping the planet from raining. Is that what was going on, or am I just reading too deep into it?
They said they pumped, or Quan Ha said she was going to pump up these fumes into the tower, correct? So I thought it was like just pure gasoline raining on them at first.
I thought it was some
really?
Oil thing, like just resource mining, but it makes sense what you pitched because like we got rain after it exploded, but they didn't really go through the effort of explaining exactly what it was. I think
you guys are probably more right, because then like 5 minutes later when they're saying see you to each other, it's not raining anymore. And you know what? I just realized also as well,
like oil to the face.
Everything got blown up there except for conveniently that briefcase full of money. So good for Soren. Like I just realized now that thing survived. So that must have been a pretty hardy case.
Absolutely.
I don't know how they were able to find that.
He made sure to protect it. That's the only reason he was there by the end of the day.
Yeah. Lastly, I thought there was a couple nice music cues in this episode. One is like when everything was hunky dory at the end. It was kind of just maybe a more generic, happy, relief kind of theme that played, but I thought it had a little bit of complexity to it. It has, I think, everything in this show like will have like some orchestral element to it, but then it kind of brings in these sort of techie sounds that makes it a little more a little more complex, I guess. So I thought that was nice. And then during the action sequence, like the music wasn't anything special, but there was one moment when it is that same moment when Soren is kind of over in those oil barrels, and it kind of slows down to almost like this little stealth sequence when he's kind of cruising around, and this music just drops to like a couple little, I don't know what kind of drum or glockenspiel or something's going on, but some like light percussion part that I thought was pretty cool. And then it busted into big action themes again. But wanted to shout out the music. I feel like it's used sparingly in the show, but there definitely has been a few times throughout that I've noticed it, and I wanted to look this up. That Sean Callery, I don't know how you pronounce his name, but he, I guess, is the composer for this show. So definitely some shout outs to him.
Nice.
And that was pretty much all my notes of this episode.
Yeah, I didn't have much. I'm honestly, I'm surprised we made it this long. I just remember like watching it. It was just like, man, this is gonna be. I think it's gonna be a show. I just don't have much to add because I just don't really care about these characters. But we ended up having a good discussion out of it.
Mm-hmm.
As we
I couldn't agree more. With you, Dylan, about the score. There's some moments where it hits, and yeah, this. We got this episode, and I'm glad it's over and done with, and we have a few more still to go. I guess a couple more. It's weird because like when I look at IMDb, it says 9, and when I see like Wikipedia, it says 10. So
weird.
There's at least 9 episodes. I know that much, but if we have 2 more, I am strongly holding on to the prediction that now that both Chief and the Blessed One are aware of the Halo ring. I guess
that's her name.
McKee, yes. Now she's had her psychic connection with Chief and with this artifact, this keystone. So now I believe, okay, if not during, definitely by the end, we're going to have a nod that, okay, the invasion of Reach is going to begin. And we're going to see some great stuff. And I'm hoping that's the case. I could be wrong. If not in that episode, it'll be the finale. We'll have like the beginning of that, or maybe like, I doubt they would end on a cliffhanger with the Battle of Reach or something. Like, stay tuned for
They love
2.
cliffhangers in this show.
They sure do love cliffhangers. But I feel
we're
like
still waiting on the one from last week, Taylor. We were so excited to see what was going to happen next. And
we actually wanted 10 more minutes of that episode, actually, which is rare. But yeah, instead we got 10 more minutes of Quan. But I am looking forward to next week because of what we could get. My prediction, my hope. So yeah.
I googled how many episodes, and it says there's only 7, so we're done. That was the finale episode. And then I went on this article and it said
that's the finale episode. Just
that'd be the worst thing ever. And then I guess it was originally supposed to be 10 episodes, but then when the previous director, I don't know how many previous directors there were, I can't remember the whole production story. When I guess they left, then they changed it. So now I think it is 9. I think it is 9. So Google really fucked up though, like 7. I mean, I guess that means how many currently exist, but I'm looking for total count here.
So anyway. The directors that played the games, they left the project, and left the directors that didn't play the games. Well, there you have it. Episode 7 is done. And we'll be back next week, and hopefully it's a good time, as always. I always appreciate and enjoy the conversations much more than these episodes. So
hell yes.
Yeah.
Alrighty, gents.
We'll see you guys next time.